wife, of 52 years, and died 7 years ago. That was mutual friends who introduced us. We were both divorced, both the same age, both had 2 children. And all I can say is I owe a debt of gratitude to the people that introduced us.
Charlie, I've heard you and Monish both talk a lot about the power of cloning, great ideas, and I was wondering what you think about the flaws or limitations or dangers of cloning. When, for example, when you're not true to yourself, like when does one get in trouble with cloning when it doesn't work?
Well, cloning is, of course, it's not an ambiguous word when you use it biologically. But when you take it into some other field, cloning is a very interesting idea. You do remove ideas from one place and bring them into another. And if that's cloning, I do it all the time.
Charlie, can you take us?
I like cloning.
Can you take us back when you bought the Buffalo News paper and just the stress that you had to go through, because it looked like it was going to go under, right, at one point for a while, right? Well, take us the story about the Buffalo News.
We were never the weakest in the town. So we were betting that we'd be the survivor. And we were. So it was unpleasant because we showed no return for a long time. But when the other guy finally turned up his toes, we suddenly started making a lot of money. So it just was delayed gratification. It was 7 years of like no profits.
Wow.
And it disappears and the sky rains gold.
On the note of
the earnings went from nothing to 70 million a year as pre-tax. Boom, boom.
On the topic of cloning, do you really believe, as Manisha said, that if investors look at 13Fs of super investors, that they can beat the market by picking their spots? And we'll add spin-offs.
It's a very plausible idea. And I have encouraged one young man to look at it. So I can hardly say that it has no merit. Of course it's useful, if I were you people, to look at what other people you regard as great investors are doing for ideas. The trouble with it is that if you pick people as late in the game as Berkshire Hathaway,
Right.
you're buying our limitations caused by size.
Sure.
You really need to do it from some guy that's operating in smaller places and finding places with more advantage. And of course, it's hard to identify the people in the small game. But it's not an idea that won't work. If I were you people, of course, I would do that.
What do you mean?
I would want to know exactly what the shrewd people were doing, and I would look at every one of them, of course. That would be a no-brainer for me.
What do you mean by you encourage one young man to pursue it? What do you mean?
Well, the young man's my grandson, who has a fair amount of money and fascinated by securities. And so I advised him that why don't you start there.
Wow.
Do you think the equity positions within Berkshire
So it's
will...
Monish's idea.
Do you think the equity positions in Berkshire will do better for Berkshire going forward, or the wholly owned businesses, operating businesses?
Well, I think the wholly owned businesses will, because we won't be paying any taxes on selling them. And I think they'll continue to grow, and I think they'll do better. I think the wholly owned businesses of Berkshire, or the 80% owned, or what have you, are on average better than the businesses, let's say the S&P. So I think we'll do better in that part than the S&P, and I don't think our stocks located in a corporation subject to taxation will do enough better than the A&P to even pay the taxes. But if we're buying the stocks with the float in some insurance company, of course the world changes. But no, I would say that, of course, if you buy Berkshire, you should not be buying it on the strength of its little its portfolio. Look, we get $8 billion. It's the biggest market cap in the country. Took a considerable period to get $8 billion into it. And it's not that big a deal with a 400 billion market cap. And it's not that, it was easier to get into it than other things. No, people who buy Berkshire when you bought Berkshire back 30 or 40 years ago, you were getting a bunch of marketable securities at a discount, and all the businesses were free. And of course, those people made a lot of money. We outperformed the market by miles in those days, and the businesses did well. And now we've got businesses that are averaging out doing well, and our marketable securities are a small percentage of our cap. There were years when we had more marketable securities per share than our book value per share. Now it's quite different. And of course, the market at its present multiples is it's a different world. No, but the one thing about Berkshire that's interesting is we do get some opportunities other people don't get. If you're 3G and want a partner for your next deal, who the hell are you going to come to? They know we're a good partner. So we see stuff other people don't see. That helps.
Sorry. Charlie, moving on to one of the smaller positions in Berkshire's portfolio, there was a recent position made in SiriusXM. Could you talk
In
about
what?
SiriusXM? Could you talk at all about radio assets and your outlook on radio assets with
I don't know anything
competition?
about radio assets except that it's a very mature market. And goddamn radio is basically an auto market. Not to listen to the radio. People driving. Very peculiar. And it's totally concentrated. I don't know even what. I never think about it.
How much of your success can be attributed to Occam's razor and Kelly's formula?
Well, Occam's razor is, of course, a good idea. It's a basic idea. And it's like, Occam's razor is like telling a fisherman to fish where the fish are. Of course, you'll do better.